In this video, we are going to be discussing how SQL Server is related to Power BI and how SQL itself is related to Power BI. We're not going to get too deep, but we're going to go dance out a little bit in the weeds, just a little bit, comparing SQL Server. We're not comparing, but seeing how SQL Server and Power BI work together. But before we do that, the first thing I'd like for you to do is scan this QR code. Scan the QR code. Basically, what the QR code is going to allow you to do is to join our community, the community of CTOs. Join the community of CTOs. What do you get as a member of the community of CTOs? You get my weekly newsletter. You say, T, I don't need another weekly newsletter. Yes, you do. This is a newsletter like none other. In my weekly newsletter, you get Power BI job updates from a personal job portal that I created of jobs that I curated from around different job boards that I brought into Power of the BI. You need this newsletter. This Power BI job portal will give you the news. This newsletter will give you free access to the Power BI job portal. The next thing is you get access to my free weekly webinar. My free weekly webinar is held every Thursday from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Listen, you need to join the CTOs, scan the QR code, and get access to our free weekly newsletter. In addition to many other things, live events, our equipment list of what it takes in order to build out a successful Power BI office space in your home, or the top computers to use, the best computers to use based on our recommendation. But anyway, I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I just want to give you that little bit of information. So now let's jump right over into the video. Welcome back to another lesson in the Power of the BI. In this video, in this lesson, we are going to be discussing relationships. No, I'm not talking about relationships that you have with your man or with your woman or with your significant other, whoever, whatever that might be. I am talking about database relationships. So getting right into the nitty-gritty, because this is probably the most important thing in the understanding and the development of Power BI. Once you can understand relationships, once you really get a good understanding and a grasp of relationships, the other things are going to come. The DAX, the SQL, the different measures and stuff like that, that's going to come. But you've got to understand the relationships. If you don't understand the relationships, none of this is going to work. None of the visualizations are going to work unless you just have one table. But so getting right into it, as you can see here, what I have on presentation here is a dashboard that I am working on, have created. If you follow me on my YouTube channel, you will know that this is a dashboard that I update on a periodic basis just to let some of the sports guys know, the football guys know, the online betting guys see what the different statistics may be for professional football as we're moving into that season, to this season, that season. So with that said, I'm demonstrating this dashboard just so you'll get an idea of how relationships are affected in a Power BI visual, in a Power BI report, dashboard, or visualization. So I know we haven't really gotten into visuals as of yet, but what I want you to understand is every element, every different piece that's on a dashboard is a visual, right? It shows some type of measure or statistic or some type of data visualization, so that when you look at it, you know this is what that visual is about. For instance, up here we're talking about passing yards for a quarterback, and we see that this is going to be the sum of the total passing yards. The total passing yards for the season was 129,000 combined by all players. The least number of passing yards a quarterback had during the season, or a person threw a pass during the season, was a -7, and the maximum passing yards of one individual player was 4,624 yards. So each one of these visuals shows something different. I'm not going to really get into the different visuals right now, but I want you to understand that all of these visuals are built on a relationship. So here, this is a table visual. This is a funnel. This is a funnel. this is a gauge, this is a gauge, this is a gauge, then this, and this. All of these are cards. They just show individual values, right? And then this up here is called a slicer because we can pick different individuals, and we can slice each one of these visuals by the individual person. Now, this is an element too. This is just an image for the logo, and this blue is just the background. But just understanding that all of these visuals are built on relationships. So if I come over to the slicer visual and I select Andy Dalton, now it's only going to show me Andy Dalton's information. If I select Anthony Richardson, it's only going to show me Anthony Richardson's information. If I select Brian Anger, it's only going to show me Brian Anger's information, right? So that means that this slicer has to have some form of a relationship with all of these visuals in order for these visuals to understand that when Andy is selected, I'm going to change. When Andy is selected, I'm going to change. So basically, all I'm saying is there's a relationship, and we've been talking about SQL Server, and pretty much SQL Server is a relational database. It's a database that has the databases inside of SQL Server they're built on relationships, just like this is built on a relationship. And the relationships that are built are primarily built on tables, right? If we look over, well, we'll talk about the tables here in a minute when we get over into into SQL Server. But at the end of the day, just understand that everything has a relationship, where all the visuals have a relationship. Just to be a little bit more clear on what the relationships look like. Let's say there's a one-to-one relationship. That means 1 over here equals 1 over here. How does that really look, Tarad? Say there is a husband over here and there is a wife over here. They are husband and wife. 1-to-1. It's only one husband for this one wife. There's only one wife for this one husband. That's called a 1-to-1 relationship, right? Now, the husband has kids, children. He has 3 boys and 3 girls, right? So the one husband has 6 kids, 6 children. That means there's a one-to-many relationship. The wife has 6 children. There's a one-to-many relationship. And if we do it in reverse, we will say that the 6 children have one father. So there's a many-to-one relationship. The 6 children have one mother. There's a many-to-one relationship. Now, I'm going to give you a cheat sheet because we can't really get too deep into the weeds in a short period of time. But the cheat sheet is we're pretty much always looking for a one-to-many relationship. We're pretty much always looking for a one-to-many. You're going to get what that means a little later, but if you can remember, when I'm building my relationships, if I can go one-to-many, I'm probably going to be okay. In some instances, very few that I've seen, many-to-many work, or you're looking for a many-to-many relationship. Very few you're looking for a many-to-one. I have seen instances where you are looking for many-to-one. But if you can make that thing go one-to-many, you're pretty much on track. So, you're saying that's too much going on. Listen, here's the deal. Remember, we're looking for one-to-many relationships. If you can remember you're looking for a one-to-many relationship, eventually, if you need a different type of relationship, as long as you understand one-to-many, you're probably going to be okay. Now, the other thing about Power BI and relationships is a star schema. It's a star schema. It's a fancy term for pretty much one-to-many, right? For instance, there is a father at the center of the relationship. Then there are 6 children around the father, okay? That father is at the center of that relationship. So at the center of the relationship, that one-to-many, that one element that's connecting the other elements is the star. That's the star. It's the center of the star. if you can imagine having a bicycle wheel, and in the center of the bicycle wheel, and then you got the spokes that are going out to the rim of the wheel, right? So at the center of the bicycle wheel is the center of the star schema. And then everything that's going out, those tentacles that are going out, those are creating the star, right? So at the center of the star schema, building relationships, there's going to be a center, which is going to be the one, and it's going to be connecting the many that's coming around it, right? And that's going to be the star. Very few times are you going to have more than one star. So most of the time, when you're building a project, you're looking for that one element that is connecting everything. There's going to be one table that's connecting all the other tables, right? There's going to be one ID. There's going to be one column that's going to be connecting all the other columns. So there's going to be a table, and inside the table, there's a column. And then each one of those columns, that one column, there's going to be an individual column that's going to connect all the other tables, but it's going to connect it via one column. I just said a whole lot. Let's do this. Let's go over to SQL Server. So if you open up your SQL Server, right? And what I have here, I've already looked at it a little bit. But again, this is our AdventureWorks database. This is our database. And inside of our database, we've got tables. And we've got other things inside the database, but the most you're going to use inside of a database is primarily going to be your tables and your views. We'll talk about those later. We'll talk about views later. We'll talk about tables now. So I just clicked it. I expanded the tables, and now you can see these are all the tables inside of the database. These are all of the tables inside of the database. Now, select star from. That's something that I spoke about initially, that I spoke about before. And basically what that allows you to do, it allows you to see the table that we're working with. So let's just say, I'm not gonna delete this table. We'll delete this because I already have it up, so I'm just gonna leave it here. But say we wanna select from the sales.store table. I'm just gonna highlight, since I've got all of these open, I'm just gonna highlight that one so I can only see one. And when I select, when I type select means choose. And when I choose, the star means all, and the from tells me we're going to go select a table to choose from. Now, we don't have to always choose star. There are other ways to choose from, but we'll get into that later as well. But as for right now, we're going to select everything in this table. We select star from sales.store table. And these are all of the columns that we're seeing here. These are all of the columns in the sales.store table. So then you say, well, how do I know what's my relationship going to be on? What's going to be the column in this table that's going to connect all of the other tables that it's associated with? And the way we know that is here, it's going to be on what we call a key, right? The key is that individual element, that individual column that connects builds a relationship with all the other columns. And in this particular instance, we've got business entity ID and we've got salesperson ID. We also have row, I forgot what GU means, but that's ID as well. When you see ID at the end, you know that that's a key, right? That is a key. Now, you're saying, hey, well, if the key is going to connect all of the other tables, and I've got 3 keys here, how do I know which key is going to connect? So now here's the deal. There are 2 types of keys. There is the identity key, which is the main key, and then there's a foreign key, right? And so, you just tricked me up. Now it may take you a little while to really grasp that concept. But there's your key, and there's your foreign key. The foreign key means so the key. There's a primary key and there's a foreign key. The primary key is the one key that identifies each element in that particular table. The foreign key means that is a key that identifies an element in a table, but not that table, but those elements in that table are associated with the table that it's associated with. I know I just said, I know I just confused you, but that's okay. I'm gonna try to clear it up here, as clear as mud here in a minute. We've got a primary key and a foreign key. So the question is, what is the primary key for this table? And it appears that the business entity ID is going to be the primary key for this table. I'm going to say that one because it's the first key in the table, and that's how this that's how AdventureWorks is set up. So typically the first key in the table is the primary key. Doesn't have to be. You'll be able to identify it sooner or later. But the way that AdventureWorks is set up, that's the way it's set. So it pretty much makes it easy for those of us that are new in the industry. Okay, so we see that business entity ID is the primary key for this table. And if we want to link this table to another table, then we've got to see, well, what other tables is it associated with? Well, it's associated with the salesperson table. The reason why I know it's associated with the salesperson table is because it has the salesperson ID, which is the primary key for the salesperson table. So if I come over and I select salesperson, select star from sales.salesperson, and I hit execute, now I see that sales.salesperson, now that I see in this table, it has business entity ID, which was the primary key in the sales.store table. And it's the only key, well, it also has a row GUID as well. It's got the territory ID too. But now I know that since the sales.store table also has the business entity ID and the salesperson table has the business entity ID, the relationship that they have is business entity ID. So if I wanted to connect these two tables together, I would connect these tables together by business entity ID. I would draw, if they were on a piece of paper, I would draw a line from business entity ID and connect it to the line and connect it to the column. If they were on a piece of paper on a table, connected to the business entity ID in this table. Now, if I come back down to the sales.salesperson table, I also see that there is a territory ID, which tells me that this is a foreign key, which means that there is another table called territory, and it's probably called sales.sales territory, since that's the way the nomenclature is set up here in AdventureWorks. So if I go with a territory ID, I should be able to connect or build a relationship between the territory ID and the salesperson ID as well. So I'm going to come down to sales.sales territory. And now I'm in the territory ID table. In the territory table. And the territory ID column is in the territory ID. The territory ID column is in the territory table. So if I go back to sales.salesperson, let's look at it again, sales.salesperson, it has a territory ID column. And if I go to territory, sales.sales territory, it has a territory ID column. So I'm gonna connect this territory table to the sales territory table by the territory ID. I'm just gonna draw a line and I'm gonna connect it to territory ID. So let's look at them both at the same time. If I highlight both, I can see both at the same time. Now I see I've got a territory ID column here. I've got a territory ID column here. So I'm going to draw a line and it's going to connect territory ID to territory ID, and that builds that relationship. And remember that with sales.salesperson and sales.sales store, if I run both of those have business entity ID. So I'm going to connect both of these by business entity ID. So here's a trick question. Now, if we were just using these three tables, which table is going to be at the center of the star, right? Trick question. And the answer is sales.salesperson is going to be at the center of the star, because sales.salesperson is connecting sales.sales territory by territory ID, because they both have a territory ID column, and sales.salesperson is connected to the sales.sales store because they both have a business entity ID. And so that means sales.salesperson is connected to both of them, but sales.store and sales.sales territory are not directly connected, which means that the relationship that is built between the store and the territory is because of the salesperson. Let me say that a different way. We've got husband and wife, and they're married. And we have husband's mother, and we have wife. The wife is only related to the mother-in-law because of the husband. If you take the husband out, the mother-in-law is no longer related to the wife. Oh, I just said something, right? But so that's what relationships look like. And what does that really mean when we're talking about Power BI? We will talk about that in the next lesson. But if you have any questions, please submit them inside of the Facebook group, and I'm sure either myself or one of the other team members will respond, or you may find your answer right there in the Facebook group. But with that said, this has been our lesson on relationships inside of SQL Server.